So I came around a corner, and this bear, grizzly bear, had its head in the bushes, probably eating huckleberries or something. And then when I came around the corner, it like sniffed a little and moved. And then I saw at least one cub. I think there were two, though, cubs behind it. And they went into the bushes. She stared at me and then put her head down and started running at me.
Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. Test. Okay, gonna be a little bit. How's that? Can you guys hear me all right?
All right, I'm back.
All right.
And I just finished eating. Woo!
Woo!
And I'm still here.
Yeah, sorry to kind of just leave you there hanging for a minute, bro.
It's okay, I got comfortable.
Now recording.
I came in like on time for the first time probably ever, and maybe since like the first couple shows, and it was dead silent.
Did you see what it said in the chat there?
Like, this is really weird. I'm just going to keep my microphone muted, and I'm just going to finish eating my food.
What's up?
For the first time ever in Stories from the Trail history.
Sound like a show.
Here, you know what?
Say something, Odie.
There we go. Once again, I've been talking with my microphone on mute. So again, I don't know.
You're talking to us on mute?
Again, yes.
Good job, Gary. Good job.
Again, I don't know if I'm really the right guy for the job here. I was asking you
today, effective right now.
I'm sorry.
Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
No, we can hear you, Larry. We can hear you.
Loud and clear. Yeah. So, Megan, I was asking if you saw what was in the chat when you came in, why everybody was being so quiet.
No, I guess I have to scroll up.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I gotta get it.
Yeah, I yelled at everybody.
How far up do I have to go?
Oh, you don't have to go all the way up. I'll give you a quick recap. Do you remember that crazy party that we had on the porch at Crazy Larry's the very first time we ever stayed there, and he came out and yelled at us because we were making too much noise and we were going to get everybody in trouble?
Yeah, I remember that.
I just did that to everyone in the chat.
You're so nice.
No, it was funny. Larry was having his weekly microphone issues. Odie is staying at Larry's place tonight, and they were trying to get things up, and it was creating this feedback loop. And it was like right as Legend hopped in the chat at the same moment that like Reptar came in home from work, and like it was just and I came in and I was like, guys, you're embarrassing us, knock it off.
Oh, there's no way they could be embarrassing us. We do a fine job of that ourselves.
It's true, we do our best.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the old poop stories. It's like it was only last week.
It's like it was only last week, and the week before that, and the week before that. And every single time we get together.
Well, when I joined, it sounded like a bad neighborhood with like car alarms going off and people talking over each other.
Oh, gosh.
I thought I was at the wrong place.
Apologize for them.
Somebody's already taken his lunch money.
Yeah, I showed up in the wrong neighborhood.
So we've got a couple of new voices on the line this evening. The ones that you always hear are usually myself. I've been on for most of these episodes. Megan is here, not chewing. Hello, Megan, aka
Because
Voldemort.
I'm muting selectively whenever I have to chew.
Yep. I don't think we have Daniel with us this evening, but if we do, we'll hear him.
We'll hear him eating his microphone.
Yep. Reptar is with us as always. Reptar, one of our co-hosts. Pleasure to speak with you again, sir.
Always a pleasure, friends.
Wow, so formal.
Yeah, and we have a very special guest joining us this evening, and I hope I'm pronouncing your real name correctly. Is it Jeff Garmire? Am I saying that right?
Perfect. Yep.
Cool. Known on the trail as Legend. Welcome.
Yeah, I have a very conceited trail name.
So why don't we just jump right to it? Let's get to that. So when Reptar told me that somebody named Legend was going to be on the show, So, I'd already heard of you because you're a legend. So you hear this trail name and right away you get ready for like, okay, I'm ready to be intimidated. And then you see this hiking resume, to borrow a phrase that Zach Davis uses a lot. This guy's pretty much hiked, mileage wise around the world a couple of times just in the last few years. And interestingly enough, your trail name Legend doesn't really have anything to do with your badassery as a hiker. Let's talk about that after you tell us how you got your trail name, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way. I was 20 years old and hiking my first trail on the Pacific Crest Trail. And we were camped at the visitor center just outside of Wrightwood, just after leaving town. And we were all disappointed. We didn't think to pack out, town food and stuff to eat while we were staying there. So being probably the youngest in the group, I wanted to impress everyone. So I said that I would hitch back into town and come back with pizza, steak, and beer for everybody. And no one thought it was really going to be possible since it was dusk, but went back to town, and an hour later showed up with pizza, steak, and beer and everything. Everyone was sitting around the campfire blown away. They said it was legendary, and the name Legend stuck. And now I have to live up to it, I guess.
Hey, it doesn't take much to impress thru hikers other than just some food and a little bit of beer, right?
Yeah, pizza impresses every thru hiker, I think.
Yeah. Well, you were working under some pretty adverse conditions there. I mean, right away, you said it was after dark. Right away that means hitchhiking's a little bit harder.
Yep. Yeah, I had to convince some 17-year-olds that had just started driving to give me a ride back up to the trail. But, it all worked out. They were terrible drivers too.
Like some kid who just got his license for the first time.
Yeah, and points out things on the side of the road, and just looks at him, and it's like, pay attention to the road, you're swerving.
You said this is your first thru hike?
Yeah, back in 2011 on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Okay, and you were 20 years old, and did you have any kind of long distance hiking experience before then?
No, none. At this point I had an external frame pack with about 55 pounds in it, so Jesus. I definitely didn't look like I had experience either.
Wow.
Dang.
So I've been able to cut down over half that weight.
So
okay.
No longer lugging around an external frame pack then?
No, it actually broke around Walker Pass because I had too much weight in it that the frame broke in half.
I didn't even know that could happen. Wow.
Me neither.
Okay, so if you're starting your very first thru hike with a 57 whatever pound pack, I'm assuming you didn't really do any research either, right? You just kind of like jumped headlong into
I just, my parents said that I'd have to pay for it all myself, but I could use any gear they had, and that meant everything was pretty out of date, but I just used the gear that they had, and then luckily that pack was from REI, so I got the warranty and was able to get a pack that looked a little more like the other thru hikers out there, and slowly figured out how to piece together everything.
All right, so I've got your website up here that has this huge list of all of these places that you've hiked, and I am trying to get this up because I wanted to talk to you.
I've got a question. I'm kind of curious,
okay.
How did you decide that you wanted to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, out of anything from the beginning?
So, when I was 16, we met, me and my family met some hikers in Oregon, and the lady was pretty sick, so we actually let her stay at our house for a few days. And so that kind of got the whole Pacific Crest Trail in my mind. And then I was going to college and just going to college, not really there to get a degree, and decided I should take a term off and figure something out. So I'd been working for a year, just going to school part-time. And at one day, just 3 weeks before going on the hike, I told my parents I was going to do the Pacific Crest Trail, and they were like, okay, if you're serious. And so I just packed up the gear they had, cobbled it together, flew to San Diego. My friend dropped me off at the terminus, and from there I just kind of figured it out as I went. It was just such a spur of the moment thing was standing at the terminus before I really even knew what I signed up for.
Did you go with any guidebooks or anything like that? Because I mean this is pre what Gut Hook guide, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
I had half-mile maps, and I had one of those thick, maybe half-inch thick Pacific Crest Trail guidebook that told you about each section. And I actually saw a guy that had the same book out there in 2016. So people still carry those books, but I just was trying to figure it out as I went.
All right. So
Do you do a lot of research beforehand, like online research?
No, not really at all. I didn't even know it was a high snow year in 2011. I didn't really know what I was getting in for or anything.
like, did you even understand that was like like something to even consider? You were just going in completely blind.
Yeah, I think if you would have asked me how I was going to get through the snow, I would have said, what snow?
Okay.
But I don't think I was registered.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so I was pretty new. I really figured it out as I went, and my dad helped me figure it out. So, made it through it. So actually, when my external frame pack broke, I had like this section between Kennedy Meadows and Mammoth before when a new pack was going to come. And I found it was barely more than a sack with shoulder straps in the hiker box. And I sewed a hip belt on it and walked through the Sierras with a pack sewn together with dental floss. So that was my hiker trash introduction.
Wait, you didn't even have actual like thread? You used dental floss?
Yeah, that's what I sewed up my first Sierra experience pack with.
That's pretty creative.
Waxed or unwaxed?
Waxed, because I think it made it stronger.
Okay. That little bit of waterproofing built in. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So here's the mind-blowing thing, right? So you start with 57-pound pack, and then you've got the Frankenstein pack that you've sewed together. How long did it take you to finish the PCT?
I did it in 108 days, so a little under 4 months.
That's ridiculous.
That's
insane.
faster than average, right?
I
don't know what the
feel
average
so
PCT
guilty about myself right now. Like 55-pound frame pack. Oh my god!
What's the average time that it takes to finish the PCT?
I think between 4 and 5 months, maybe. I don't know. Maybe so, like late April to late September is probably about average.
Oh,
So aside from
picked it up, didn't you?
Yeah, just learned how to do it and then just never looked back.
That's one hell of a way to find your niche. Just go in with a 50-pound pack.
So
no idea what I was going into.
at any point during that speedy journey, did you start to think like, oh, maybe I have some natural talent, or like maybe I'm good at this and I should keep doing this, or did you get some kind of spark of that, or did you just kind of like get to the end and like Forrest Gump it and do another trail?
Yeah, I knew I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was like anything special at it, but I was thinking in my mind like it'd be cool to do the Appalachian Trail and the Continental Divide Trail someday. And then it was like, well, I don't know. I probably am never going to have like 2 or 3 periods off like this. So it was like, I wonder if you could ever do them in one season. So that kind of, I had a lot of time to think about things like that. So I didn't really think I could go fast or anything. I just thought about possibilities and like new goals to have versus thinking I should try to come up with new challenges, I guess.
So what was your next goal after that first PCT hike?
Well, I kind of came up with the idea of doing a calendar year Triple Crown, but I didn't do that for, 6 years or 5 years after that. But I knew I wanted to hike more, so I did go back to college and graduate. And then after graduation, before getting a job, I hiked the Pacific Northwest Trail. So that was number 2, which was a pretty fun trip, actually. It was a very different experience than the PCT because it was so much more rural and more route finding versus just following the trail.
Can you tell people listening a little bit about that trail?
Yeah, especially in 2014, it was really rugged. Like there were sections where you'd probably hit 500 deadfall in a mile or something.
Oh wow.
That trail goes from Glacier National Park. It goes west through western Montana and northern Idaho, all across like pretty close to the Canadian border through Washington, and then ends up in the northwest corner of Washington, kind of as far as you can go in that direction, just right on the beach. So it's a pretty amazing trail. I did it from west to east, so I started on the beach, and it's a good 40 miles where you're hiking on largely sand, and you camp and get to see the sunset over the ocean. And I found some clams and cooked them over a fire. It was a really fun experience as far as like terrain and things you get to see, but it was a pretty solitary trail in comparison to the other ones.
Oh man, that sounds
trail
amazing. Can you tell us about a little bit more about the terrain on the Pacific Northwest Trail? Is there a lot of elevation change like there is on the AT, or is it more flat? Not necessarily flat, but you know what I mean, graded.
Yeah, it's probably like more like a condensed Continental Divide Trail where there are portions where you gain a lot of altitude, and there are some where you drop down lower, and it's kind of like a few trails connected by some roads. So it's not like a true trail the whole way like the AT or the PCT are largely. It's like more of a route, and there's some places where, especially back then, it was so rough, it was pretty hard to follow where the route was, but you do get pretty high up, like 8,000 feet through some of the mountain ranges, and then you do have some flatlands, especially western Washington area. And there are like a few different alternates you can take along the way. It's kind of the whole choose your own adventure side of like the Continental Divide Trail also has some presence on that trail as well. It changes so quick, and you go to like some very remote areas. So almost every resupply involves pretty decent hitch, and some of the towns are pretty small and interesting. It's very unique interactions, but it was fun. It just because I grew up in southern Washington right by Portland, and it was a very different side of the state of Washington than I'd ever experienced. And people aren't too familiar with why people would be hiking through a lot of those areas up there. Like I got warned that Bigfoot is near Republic, Washington, so I should keep a lookout for him.
Do you believe in Squatch? Do you believe in the Sasquatch?
I don't want to pick a side. This seems like people have some pretty big trenches.
Sasquatch believes in you, man.
Yeah.
So how far between are these resupply points? How far are you walking between towns, or a normal person? How many days are they going?
On
the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, probably 120 miles maybe would be the most. I'd really have to look, but I mean, you could get a 6-day resupply definitely pretty easily in the Pacific Northwest Trail, especially if you're going for kind of the easier ones to get to. It's always possible to hit a road and have a real long resupply, but I usually try to avoid those.
So that trail is 1,250 miles. And do you remember how many days you did that trail in?
I believe it was 45 or 46, probably.
45 is what it says on your site here. So
there you go. Yeah, 45.
Judges, we're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to him.
Jeez.
Legend gets the point.
You did this trail, and then did you realize like, oh, I'm actually like really good at this? No,
I went to work and was like, I know I want to hike. I know I want to hike more. It was just like find a way to fit it in. I didn't think I was like anything special. I mean, everyone talks about doing 30-mile days or something, but I guess I didn't realize people talk about doing 30-mile days, but don't do 30-mile days every day.
At some point, did you notice? Did you catch yourself going, "Wow, I sure am passing a lot of people"? Or I guess on the PNT,
Pacific Northwest Trail,
like nobody's catching me.
Everyone was going the opposite way, so it didn't even feel like that.
Okay, so that's 2014. And if you don't mind, not necessarily hiking related, but you mentioned that you went to college between those two hikes. What did you study?
I studied recreation management and accounting.
Okay, and did you get a job in your field?
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Okay, but there's no time for a job when you've got to hike all these miles.
Yeah, no, I haven't had a job in my field. I quit about a year ago for what I hope is an extended period. So we'll see.
All right, congratulations.
Yeah, we'll see how it works.
All right, so after the Pacific Northwest Trail, then we're still not to the calendar triple. You went and did something else amazing.
Yeah, I visited my friend in Colorado and there. So I found a job while I was visiting him actually and moved out there. And then I met some people and we decided to climb Mount Rainier in Washington. So we flew out there, did it all on our own, just kind of using pictures and maps to navigate crevasses, but it worked out. And then once I climbed that 14,000 foot peak, it was like, wow, there's all these 14ers in Colorado. Went out one weekend and climbed, I don't know, I think 4 of them, and then was like, I wonder if I could climb all these in one summer while working. So on my Saturdays and Sundays, I climbed, I don't know, I climbed 58 total. There's like 54 recognized ones, but was able to fit them all in the summer of 2015.
Just squeeze that in.
Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah.
I mean, I like how we just kind of like threw Mount Rainier in there as an also, like, a footnote. Like, this is, something that typically requires, like a professional guide and ropes and mountaineering skill. You have any mountaineering experience before this?
Before Mount Rainier, not really. We practice in my friend's backyard, so we had ropes.
That's one way to, I guess, do the whole weekend warrior thing.
Is your friend's backyard a fjord in Iceland or something? I mean,
no, it was like a 70-degree day in Denver. Roped up, and we're like, okay, I think we're good.
Okay,
so
all right.
That was ambitious, but it worked out.
I'm still blown away at the 14ers in one summer, man. Like, because I lived in
casual
Colorado,
weekend hikes,
and like I would take a day off and go hike a 14er, but it was like 1, maybe 2 in a day, and you're like knocking out 4. That's like insane to me.
Yeah, I guess it got in my head and it just kind of consumed me, so I really just went for it. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was really fun. I just remember I'd try to plan them based on weather. So each Thursday I'd start looking at the weather and then trying to connect how much I could drive and how little I needed to sleep and which ones I could get to that wouldn't have thunderstorms over them. So it just became this intense planning. And then at the end, it was just, trying to be smart. So there's some in Western Colorado that take 4 or 5 hours to get out to. And those weekends when I went out there, it was I gave myself 2 weekends to get those done. And it was just had to be super serious and productive so I wouldn't use as much gas and have to go one more weekend that far away. It was fun though. Just a lot of bagging peaks.
So I think for anybody that doesn't really know about Colorado 14ers, some of them, are relatively easy and smooth, but there's a couple that are gnarly. And I forget what the names of those two are. It's isn't it Mount Pyramid or something? And then there's another one that's basically a knife edge, a literal knife edge that you're just scooting along.
Yeah, Capitol Peak. I climbed
Capitol Peak. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that one a couple times, and the first time I did it, I got up there and it was, whoa, there's people up here with helmets and rope together. And I just scooted across the knife's edge and went up to the summit next to all the people that had ropes and helmets. But that was a fun one. That one's the most epic thing I've just done with very little research, I think.
Yeah, that is gnarly. If somebody wants to link a picture of that one in the chat, it's unreal. Also, you did, what was it? Nolan's 14, was it?
Yeah, yeah, I did that last year. Yep.
And can you
What
tell
is that?
everybody what that is?
Yeah, it's a 100 mile, I guess, route, but there's no trail really or anything that links up 14,000 foot peaks. And the goal is to do it under 60 hours. So it's like a point to point thing that goes over the peak of 14 different 14ers. And last year did that as part of my Great Western Loop through hike. So I had all my through hiking gear, but I really wanted to do Nolan's 14. So I'd packed out a bottle of wine from town and was drinking it like, let's say 20 hours or maybe 12 hours before I was going to start, and just was like, maybe I'll do Nolan's 14 tomorrow. I just remember like pouring out the last bit of wine, going into Leadville, getting some caffeine, and then camping at near the fish hatchery, kind of outside of Leadville, and then going for Nolan's 14 and successfully making it in 59 hours starting the next day.
That's insane.
Dang.
You remind me of a friend of mine from college who eventually went on to no shit be a commander of Navy SEAL teams. Just
Wow.
because this guy would do shit like this. Like he would show up. I was in the Marines and I led ROTC in college, but that's how I met this guy. But he would like show up for we put together a team to run the Marine Corps Marathon, and he missed every single practice. Or he would show up every once in a while. He'd show up, but he would still be drunk from the night before. And when he finally showed up at the van, like the morning we were going to drive to DC to run this marathon, I was like, there's no fucking way this guy's going to do it. Just zero practices, had a big plate of spaghetti the night before, and he's like, where's the starting line? And just like finished this thing in like 3 hours. I think he crossed the finish line with a beer in his hand too. And then like, yeah, I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL now. See ya. And just,
Wow.
just out of nowhere. This is what I'm seeing. Like, from you. This is the potential that I see.
There's a few more
physically.
stories along those paths.
It says here that you pulled the Excalibur sword from the stone and currently wielding the hammer of Thor from Asgard. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't remember if that was a dream or a real thing, but yeah,
Jesus
maybe.
Christ, dude.
If it's on my website, it's probably true.
So,
I
get back
did.
on track.
If you're interested, I pulled up the stats that I kept on the 14ers that summer, and it was 511.25 miles in total and 202,000 feet.
Okay.
2002, 400 and 400 feet of elevation gain. 202,400 feet of elevation gain for that summer.
Jesus. That is just unreal. So
Yeah, that was a fun summer.
So you knock out all these 14ers, and as if that's not badass enough, the next year, you're like, all right, let's just do a calendar year Triple Crown.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Yeah.
How much?
Weekend hikes, you needed to challenge yourself more than just your weekend 14ers.
Yeah, I think so.
Go do all
Just
of them.
needed to get back out on a through hike, I think is how I felt.
How much of your?
I'm just curious about the differences between your first PCT hike in 2011 and your PCT hike in 2016. Like what? I mean, obviously you weren't carrying a giant external frame 55-pound pack at that point, I would think, right?
Yeah, definitely cut down, went to a more traditional pack. But I did the Appalachian Trail starting on February 5th and finished that in late April, which is not an ideal time frame to do the AT. So it was pretty rough and tons of ice and weather and stuff. And so by the time I finished the AT and made it to the PCT starting, I think May 3rd or May 2nd, maybe, I was in really good shape and just really happy to be in weather where it wasn't going to snow and rain on me all the time. So I just started off that in such prime shape that it was a whole different experience as far as like very little blister care. It felt like so much less to take care of logistical wise, just coming off the AT. It was just a very different, it was, 100% different than my first time on the PCT.
Yeah, I saw a video, I guess you posted, that was like the calendar year triple crown in 3 minutes or something. And like, you're like, there's a lot of ice, there's a lot of ice, there's a lot of ice on the AT. And then it goes to the PCT and you're like, it's really hot. It's hot. Where's the water? It's really hot.
Yeah, that video came out really good. And it just showed the experience of like every weather system was involved. And short enough video where it just shows it like bam, bam, bam. It's pretty fun to make that.
Can we talk about your experience on the AT? Since
it's not quite as good as most people's, I would say.
I know, this is why I want to talk about it.
Sounds very different.
Yeah, so starting February 5th, there are the handful of people that start January 1st for some reason. So they were out there, but I passed them pretty quickly.
Now, sorry, for most people, this would be a dumb question, but I assume northbound?
Yeah, northbound. Okay. Yeah, I mean, February 5th doesn't really matter, it seems like, but yeah. Yeah, northbound. It was, there were a few people that started really early and we're going really slow that I saw at the beginning. But after that, I was like the only hiker, the first one signing the logs of the year. Almost everything was closed. Like in the Shenandoah, all the waysides were closed. I saw like 2 people in that whole section. And it's obviously a really popular national park. Weather was really tough. It snowed on me 3 times, like significant snow. Sometimes after a couple of these snowstorms, if it was windy at all, it would blow on the trees and the white places were covered in snow. And I wasn't using gut hooks or anything at the time. So I had a bit of trouble on that front. And just in general, so out of the 3 trails that year, the AT took the longest, and it's considerably shorter than the other 2 trails. And yeah, overall, my experience was like more solitude on that trail than the other 2 combined, and
which is ironic.
Miserable weather. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I know you didn't have the best. In fact, you probably had one of the worst AT experiences in terms of like you missed out on all the social aspects of it. Probably very few of the breathtaking views. You're hiking in the dark a lot. Do you have any desire to try the AT again under better conditions?
Yeah, I would have said no a year or 2 ago, but I have been thinking about that a lot, and I would definitely like to try some of it again. Well, at least the whole thing again. But yeah, I'd have to come up with something as far as maybe do it southbound or something. But I would be open to thinking about the AT again.
Out of all that slush and frostbite in 2016, you had to have a favorite memory.
Yeah, a favorite memory. I really enjoyed McAfee Knob. McAfee.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. That was really pretty.
Yeah. It was like some ice and snow on it, so it looked incredible. And then Maine, the weather was pretty good the last 3 days. And so I just had an incredible experience through the 100-mile wilderness and then Katahdin and stuff. So I really enjoyed those like epic moments where like going up Moosilauke where it was ice covered and just really difficult, windy and cold, but it just felt like something big. And then there was a payoff at the top with a view. It was the moments in like Southern Virginia where it was so cold and there was no views and I'm hitting a rhododendron bush and snow falls down the back of my neck. And those moments are the ones that are a little harder to justify.
So, and then boom, you're right onto the next trail.
Yep, immediately onto the PCT, and it was pretty perfect that year.
How much time between them?
3 days total, 1 day of travel in there. So
okay.
How much
Yep.
did it cost you to do a calendar year triple?
I think I came up with it was around $10,000.
And is that all money that you saved while you were working full time and doing every 14er in Colorado?
Yeah, pretty much. So got my Christmas bonus, and then my company split apart, and then I did some contract work. So I was actually able to save pretty good money for a couple months there, and there was a little bit of a deficit, but I grabbed a line of credit to take out, and then I was able to pay that back when I went to work this past year. So yeah, I was kind of just in the dark there, knowing how much it would cost, and I estimated pretty good, but by the end of that thing, it was like, all right, well, I can't quit because of money at this point.
Yeah, which is definitely like a big factor, I think, for a lot of people that stop a through hike. You know,
Yeah, and that one was so hard because there's, at that time there were 4 other people who'd done it, and I don't know how you really like figure out how much you're going to spend on a winter through hike and 2 summer through hikes and then transportation between them. So yeah, I was really close to the budget that I came up with, luckily, and that was just probably contributed to some of the misery on the Appalachian Trail because I didn't splurge for too much or anything, just because I knew if I was even going to have a chance, I had to keep the costs down as much as possible. But yeah, that was one of the bigger factors because I'm not the type of person who usually quits anything. It was just being able to give myself the opportunity to do it.
Hell yeah, man. So as if the calendar year Triple Crown and everything else wasn't enough, you took a year off, I see, in your little resume. And
Yep.
and then in 2018 you did the Great Western Loop, was it?
Yep, that's it. Yeah, and that loop, it combines the Pacific Crest Trail, and then you turn right onto the Pacific Northwest Trail, then you turn right onto the Continental Divide Trail and hike that all the way south to about Doc Campbell's or the Gila River area in southern New Mexico, and you turn right onto the Grand Enchantment Trail. You take that to the Arizona Trail, and you turn right and walk that up to the Grand Canyon, at which point you turn and head southwest, and you complete about 600 miles of a route that you kind of come up with on your own to connect it all back together for a loop. So came out to about 6,900 miles and was kind of all constrained by didn't want to enter the Sierra too early, and then had to be through the Rockies by the time winter hit again on the next winter.
And you did that all in an entire year as well, correct? Like, I think you're one of 2 people, I believe, the first being Andrew Skirka.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it took about, I think it was 208 days. So 7 months, I think. Yeah.
My goodness.
I'm sorry, man. This is it's funny to me,
Crazy.
man. It's just, I'm blown away by this. So how would you compare like your winter gear to your summer gear? Are you carrying a bunch of different stuff, or are you just kind of doing what you do?
Sometimes I'll go like another layer thing, but usually it's just a warmer beanie and a little bit warmer sleeping bag. That's about all that I'll change. And then sometimes I usually do a rain skirt or no rain thing for my legs, but I'll usually go rain pants if it's getting cold too. So that's about it. Those 3 things.
So by this point, you've got a lot more experience and decision making behind you. You're now using unwaxed floss to keep your pack together to save weight, right?
Yeah. I'm flossing my teeth a little less just to save that floss for when I need it.
Yeah. Right. So obviously, like a lot changes between, like 2011, I don't know what I'm doing, here's my external frame pack, to like, I'm just going to walk around America twice. Like, so by the time you get to the Great Western Loop, your gears change significantly. Like, what's your base weight going into something like that? I mean, I know it's going to change depending on seasons, but like
probably around 10 pounds, maybe 10 and a half pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, I still had a stove. So I don't know. I'm not until this last hike, I'm not the biggest ultralight cut everything, because I like to be a little comfortable too, like with the stove. But yeah, I try to keep it pretty light for the most part.
All right. So by the time you're doing this loop, only one person before it's done at Andrew Skirka. Did you guys talk at all to, compare notes or,
Nope,
ask him for any tips?
Nope. And we've never connected since I finished either.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
wow. So you just went out and did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I might try to get him to be on the show, and then we'll bring you back
Great
and
idea,
connect you guys finally.
Perfect.
This podcast tries to bring people together, so
I'm into it.
Okay. So
set up.
Okay, so I guess I still have a couple more questions about like how far along you are at this point, like in terms of your hiking career. I hate to say that word, hiking career, but you know what I mean. Have you gained by the time you've done this loop, have you gained the attention of like a huge Instagram following? Do you have a blog or gear companies reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, write about our shoe"? Is any of that happening, or are you just out there walking?
No, none of that's really happened. Mostly just out there walking. I've know a couple gear companies pretty well that have helped with some stuff, but really nothing major. So it's really just trying to spend my own money as frugally as possible. Not too much attention other than, just, I don't know. The biggest things that illustrate kind of how I love to do challenges is I think just deciding to do Nolan's 14 in the middle of it. And, there's no payoff or anything other than me just wanting to do it. And that's kind of how I've felt most my hiking and stuff has been between the Calendar Triple Crown and Great Western Loop and stuff. Is they're just like new challenges that I think there's a possibility I could achieve, and going out and doing them is just me not wanting to be like, I think I could have done that, but never given it a try.
So I'm kind of curious, while there's still more stuff to talk about, I kind of want to take it back a notch and kind of go back to your childhood. When you were growing up, was there a lot of camping trips? Were you out in the woods all the time hiking? What kind of kid were you before you decided, hey, I just want to be this, wanderer?
Just really into sports, mostly organized sports, like especially basketball and baseball. Pretty competitive on that front. And then grew up backpacking some. So a couple good stories. When I was a year old, the daycare I was going to wouldn't let me into daycare because they thought I had the chicken pox, but I had just been bit by so many mosquitoes when I was backpacking with parents. So that was good. And I also got Giardia when I was like a year old backpacking with my parents. So maybe that got me going. I don't know.
So you've basically been born to backpack, it sounds like.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Just I enjoyed the outdoors mostly at 20 because it felt like a little bit of a chore growing up, especially on the family trips where me and my brother are teenagers. My sister's 10 years younger, and my parents are just trying to get all three kids to get along while we're backpacking. But I think once I found like the freedom of backpacking, that's when I really started enjoying it.
Awesome. So after the Great Western, actually, could you actually tell me a little bit more about the Great Western Loop? Because, like you said, there was a 600-mile section where you just kind of had to figure out what you were doing. And I'm just kind of curious about the difference in terrain, the difference in the style of the trails, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So I started at the Colorado River, which is the border of California and Arizona. So I started there and walked west about 200 miles to the Pacific Crest Trail. And through that, it was like almost completely flat. And there were only like 4 water sources maybe 5 water sources till I hit the PCT. I had a 66 mile, I think, waterless stretch across Joshua Tree. So I was carrying just massive amount of water. And so that kind of started the whole hike. That was a week to get to the Pacific Crest Trail. And then that was pretty straightforward all the way north, went through the Sierra pretty early in the year, like mid-May or so. And then hit the Pacific Northwest Trail. And that's where I had a couple small issues with fires, but they were small detours, so they weren't that big a deal. But it was still a pretty remote trail, but compared to 2014, there were at least double the amount of hikers. So that was kind of fun to see people out there and a little better maintained. And it was a pretty fun experience to get the nostalgia from 4 years prior and just kind of a new, better trail through some of the areas. And then hit the Glacier National Park, turned onto the Continental Divide Trail. And as I was going south through there, had a lot of issues with fires, walked a lot of logging roads trying to connect together paths around the fires, dropping down on either the Idaho side or the Montana side of the border through there. And yeah, from there, it was kind of a sprint to get through Colorado by when the snow hit. And I thought I'd made it because I made it to New Mexico. But then I got hit by a huge storm up in northern New Mexico by Chama, and there was 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground. And there were some southbound through hikers still in that area too. So we just kind of shivered our way through that area together. And once I made it south, maybe to Grants or so, the weather cleared up and there's a little bit of ice and hailstorms, but nothing too major. And then probably the most interesting was when I turned onto the Grand Enchantment Trail. I was just blown away. It was a very different type of trail than I've ever hiked on before. So you couldn't really count miles because sometimes there was no trail and it was like you would just follow this creek all the way up, 4,000 feet or something, like as it went up through a canyon to one of the Sky Islands in Arizona or Mexico. And it was just like bushwhacking, just find the safest way to climb up some of these boulders. And it was like a true adventure compared to other trails. And it was all paper maps and stuff, no gut hooks or anything. So that was a fun, like, little step back in terms of how I've been thinking about trails and miles and stuff. And so made it through that, turned onto the Arizona Trail, which was probably a lot more similar to the Continental Divide Trail than anything, and got to see the Grand Canyon, which blew me away, and hiked down into that, and then turned around and hiked back out of that, and then turned off the route I'd created, which was kind of a series of just old logging roads and a little bit of paved road walking, and just kind of linking a couple of resupplies together, and then eventually getting back to Parker and hiking down and crossing the Colorado River to where I'd started.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to do some hiking in Arizona at some point in time, which brings me to the next question. So after all that, then you decide 2019, you know what, let me just try to set the Arizona Trail fastest known time, which you just completed, a couple weeks ago, I think it was?
Yeah, I think what is today? Wednesday? Yeah, 9 days ago, something, 10 days ago.
Dang.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I was reading your blog and that just seemed like a mental onslaught, I guess you could say, not to mention physical.
That was 9 days ago, and he's done the PCT twice since. Sorry. I had to get that in. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'd never really tried an FKT and thought thought I could do it. So at this point I was thinking maybe I'm okay at hiking. Maybe I can go fast. So thought the
Really,
Arizona
at this point, it took you up to
Yeah.
this point to figure out, hey, maybe I'm good at this.
just barely, yeah. So I just wanted to see if I could push myself in that manner as opposed to doing months on end of a longer trek. So, I lived and worked in Tahoe all winter. So I ran on the snow and through the snow and snowed 25 feet in February. So there's plenty of weather and adversity to training up there and at altitude. And then I quit the end of March, went down to Arizona, trained for, I think it was 9 or 10 days on the Arizona Trail down there, doing like 30-mile days, just getting familiar with the portion of the trail I hadn't hiked last year during the Great Western Loop. And then, at the beginning, just started off. And so I'd always had my eye on the self-supported FKT, which where you carry all your own stuff, can't get in vehicles, resupply yourself, and basically just you responsible for you kind of thing. But I'd also had my eye on maybe being able to break the overall supported one where people do it with the crew. So that was kind of the mindset I started out with. And I did super well through first couple days, and the third day had some heat issues. I literally took off my pack and laid in a puddle to try to get my heart to slow down and feel a little better, because I hit this 5,000 foot climb in Saguaro National Park at 2 p.m., which is a poor time to try to climb 5,000 feet at a quick pace. So that hit me hard and set me back a little, but recovered from that. And really enjoyed kind of the up and down diverse terrain of the Arizona Trail, which, it changes pretty constantly, and was super impressed. And then day 7, I had to do 44 miles by 7 p.m. to get a resupply box. And I was able to do it, but in the process, I didn't really take a break or take my shoes off or change my socks. And my feet got these pretty gnarly cuts on them and stuff. And that was kind of bad news for the rest of the trip, but was able to use duct tape for the next few days to keep them together. And all this time I'm on 50 mile a day pace. And then I got to Pine, which is it's after what most people would call the crux or the hardest part of the Arizona Trail. And at this point, my feet were bothering me so much. I walked about a mile into town, bought super glue, and just super glued the bottom of both feet. So there was just everything was glued up, so nothing could be cut anymore. And from there was able to push and went pretty well through the Grand Canyon, came out the other side, and I had 2 days left to make it. And I was hit with 30 miles of almost complete snow. And at this point, my body's hurting, my feet are tired, and I am moving slower. So it's taking me more hours each day to get the miles done. And I started hallucinating, seeing shadows turn into things on the snow. I did think I saw Sasquatch there to bring it all around. and
are you sure it was a hallucination?
Yeah.
Or does he truly exist?
We've had Squatch on the show before, and he's got some pretty interesting stories.
Same guy.
I've heard some of the stories.
We need some X-Files music right now.
Yeah.
Gary, add that to the soundboard thing.
He could be out there for sure. But I was able to push through all that and finish strong at the end, and was able to break the FKT.
Okay, so you didn't just break the FKT. According to fastestknowntime.com, which is the website of the organization that recognizes and tracks all these, the previous record was established in 2018 in November, so just a few months ago, by Whit El Matador Weisbram, and it was 18 days, 16 hours. Legends time was 15 days, 13 hours. That is a 27% decrease in time. So I'd say that counts as...
Do the math on that, Gary?
I did that while you guys were talking. That is shattering the record according to my calculations. Yeah, and that's for the self-supported record, and this is also faster than the supported record by 8 hours. So
than the supported record.
Yeah, so fastest known time for both self-supported and supported. You're being unnecessarily humble. Yeah. Oh, and faster than a niche too. So you've got both the male and female record as well.
I don't know if I qualify for all those, but thanks. It went pretty good out there.
Yeah.
Overall.
Well, that's just incredible. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, I was going to say we've got a couple of questions that are popping up in the chat room right now that are about the fastest known time. And for the people who are in the chat, I posted a link. I'll put this one in the show notes to Legend has a blog, and he wrote a post based on. I want to talk to you a little bit more about this too. That describes day by day what he was experiencing on this 2-week 50-mile-a-day journey. But first, I want to get to a question that's in the chat. Garmire is asking, was it a pain in the ass to meet the FKT official requirements? So I guess did you have GPS tracking or an announcement post, or what's the logistics of that?
Yeah, I did the announcement post and then GPS tracking. And it's not so much a pain in the ass, but it is like induced so much anxiety into a hike where it's like, I hope my tracker's working, especially even at the end, I didn't have cell service because I had it where I could get an email that shows if I hit the OK button, an email will go through to my phone and show that it went through. And with no service at the end, I just hit it like 3 times, just like, I hope one of these goes through to show that I'm done.
Wow.
It just, it's not a ton of hoops to jump through. It's just like the anxiety of, especially with people recently claiming things that there's not a lot of proof for. It's like, you just want to make sure that something not working on your end isn't going to happen that, makes a big effort kind of negated if that's what you're looking for, kind of thing. So I guess maybe pain in the ass might be a word that could describe it, but definitely anxiety inducing too.
Okay. That's fair. Reptar, I feel like I cut you off. You were about to say something.
Well, I'm just kind of curious, so now that you've got, I think it's like 21,000 miles under your belt and the AZT fastest known time overall, what's next? Like, where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Really good question. I mean, I think this year I want to try for some of the FKTs that ultra runners have to see if I can break those, like maybe the Long Trail or the John Muir Trail, Tahoe Rim Trail. But I'd like to try to do that this year, but in 5 years, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll have like a really cool shoe sponsorship and can hike all over the world.
That would be awesome.
Are there any trails overseas that you've got your eye on?
I'd love to do the Tararoa, but just cheaper to hike in the U.S.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then Alaska, it's definitely on the list. There's just a different type of hiking up there.
So speaking about, different types of hiking, and I mean, obviously the wilderness of Alaska is significantly different than, the wilderness of, say, North Georgia. What has
just
been your
barely maybe
only a smidge.
What kind of wildlife stories do you have? Do you have any close encounters or anything crazy like that?
Yeah. I got charged by a grizzly when I was doing the Great Western Loop up in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. So I came around a corner and this grizzly bear had its head in the bushes, probably eating huckleberries or something. And then when I came around the corner, it like sniffed a little and moved. And then I saw at least one cub. I think there were 2 though, cubs behind it, and they went into the bushes. She stared at me and then put her head down and started running at me. And I grabbed my bear spray from the back of my pack, or the side of my pack, and was ready to spray it. And I don't know, 15 or 20 yards away, she stopped and got up on her hind legs and just stared and sniffed a little bit, and then turned around and sprinted off and crashed through the bushes. And after this happened, I was just like, had so much adrenaline. I saw some cows or horses or something tied up, and I was talking to the horses, telling them about my experience. And I didn't see, there were these guys, like I think they were hunters or something, but they were sitting on logs near the horses and heard me tell them about my grizzly experience.
That is hilarious.
So in their eyes, you're just a crazy person who's been living in the woods. They're hunters. They're out for like an afternoon, and you just walk up and start talking to the horses and completely ignore the humans.
Yeah, I'm talking to horses about being attacked by grizzlies, and I have a huge beard and smell terrible.
That is hilarious. So, aside from almost getting eaten by a grizzly bear, what's been like the sketchiest moment you've had on trail?
Yeah, this one's so easy. In probably mid-April or so, I got to the Kennebec River and didn't have a way to go across, and there was snow on both sides. So I stripped naked and put everything in my pack and swam across it. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Dangerous.
Yeah,
So
that is definitely gnarly.
for people not entirely who aren't submerged in AT culture, the Kennebec River is that river in Maine where the ATC has a ferry that takes you across, because there is a dam. I forget how far upstream of the crossing there that is known for just having unscheduled releases, and the water level rises very quickly, and people have died there. I think every year someone dies crossing that river. So not only is it super cold, but that, even in the summer, that's a sketchy river. And
it was a bad idea. Like my feet, I'll never forget the moment when I was like walking across it. It was like chest deep, and then all of a sudden my feet didn't touch the bottom anymore. And that was really scary.
Where's your gear during this?
It's on my back, my backpack.
Okay.
Fully wet.
Yeah, all my clothes and everything are. I'm just naked in tennis shoes crossing this thing, and
jeez.
Yeah, it was.
For context of how fast that river can go, if you just follow that river south for, I'm guesstimating maybe like 10 to 20 miles, you'll get to a point where the Kennebec becomes rapids, and it's a well-known like whitewater rafting area. So that's the type of river that you're crossing. A little scary.
How far downstream is that?
I say it's like 10, 20 miles, like as the crow flies.
Okay. So you've got some time to paddle to shore is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. Okay. You have that much time to work with before it turns into crazy mad rapids. Yeah. It might be longer than that, but it's not all that far. If you drive from that area, that's like near Bingham, Maine, up to the Caratunk, which is where that crossing is. That drive, I believe, only takes about 20 minutes.
Pro tip for
yeah.
Anyone who is considering crossing the Kennebec River, don't.
Just take the ferry. The
ATC. So this brings up an interesting point, and maybe we always want to have something to rattle the purists with, but so there are two camps on this particular river. The ATC has gone so far as to paint a white blaze inside the canoe that takes you across the river, thereby designating the canoe as the official route. Nevertheless, there are still hardcore, I'm going to put air quotes around purists, who say, no, you have to walk across the river for it to count. Do you care? And did your hike really count, you fake Triple Crowner poser wannabe?
I think people should take the white blaze and do the canoe. It just wasn't there, and I didn't have service, so I just had to get across any way I could, I guess.
Okay, I like you again.
But you should definitely take the white blaze in the canoe.
Yeah, for real. People do die doing this, so
or get a car ride around if you can.
Yeah, in 21,000 miles, that's the scariest moment. So I think people should take that to heart and just take the canoe.
So if you don't mind, we've got about 20 minutes left. We try to do our best to finish around 8:30 if we can. And I feel like we kind of glossed over the FKT of the Arizona Trail, and maybe I'll go back and splice this conversation in so that it's seamless. But if you don't mind, I want to talk about that just a little bit more. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I posted a link in the chat, and I'll also put this in the show notes, that has your day by day breakdown of what that experience was like, and it's kind of a long read. I wouldn't even try to read it. It probably takes about a half an hour to get through it. It's very detailed. And my first question is, this post is so detailed. What was your note taking process like on this trail?
I just made a lot of videos. So I've always really enjoyed writing and doing like a blog post each day on other thru hikes. And there are for every thru hike except for that Arizona trail. And I enjoy the long form and the writing. So I came up with that post, and it's based a lot on, well, just looking back at maps and then re-watching the videos that would have like a little tidbit or what happened that day. And that's, how I could take notes while hiking and not have any downtime.
Okay. Right. So, and I bring this up because I encourage people to take the time, like skip whatever show you're going to binge watch tonight and read this instead. It's a really compelling post. It's one of those, like, you feel like you're really there. And in this case, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's not such a bad thing. It kind of turns into a Stephen King story in a couple of places. We've been joking around tonight and kind of making light of the fact that, you're this super fast hiker and you're just crushing out all these miles, but it's not easy. You're not just like hopping from peak to peak. You're out there brutalizing your body and your mind. And this fastest known time trip of yours this is unlike any other hike you've ever done. You're on a ticking clock. You're not giving yourself any rest at all. Like, what's that feel like mentally? At some point you broke down. Can you describe a little bit what that was like, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I did a post too on the Nolan's 14 one. And I think those two are like the best insight into, maybe the highs and lows of how it can feel out there. But yeah, there were just these huge highs and lows, daily on kind of the emotional level of just like, even like day 5, it's just like, oh my God, I got to push so hard and be at this point tomorrow so I can hit my resupply the next day. And then I'm not even halfway still, and I'm still just so broken down. It was like going back between doubt and and just trying to convince myself that I'm already here after this much time. I can make it that much further. Is like this just continual circle of just, being so mentally beat and broken, and then trying to bring myself back to positivity with like a mantra, convincing myself things. It was just like I was almost camped out in my own head compared to, being camped out in the woods. It was so much less about external factors and kind of how everything was physical when the sleep deprivation and pushing so hard was thrown into it. It was a way different challenge than I expected. I thought it would be, really hard, but I thought it would be, better balance of physical versus mental versus emotional. And it was just so heavily weighted on that mental emotional side, because physically, especially my longest days, it would be, you get to a point you're so broken down, but your body can keep going. It was just, trying to process that my feet really hurt or something like that, and having all these little excuses why I could quit, and then trying to not let those fester and become a reason to, take a break or slow down too much. It was really just an exercise in mental toughness more than anything, I think.
You mentioned earlier the pool that you lay down in to cool off, and how, in this blog post you write about how difficult it is to get out of that muddy water. And a few days later, you have another struggle where usually you're up before sunrise, and you're really cranking out miles before the sun comes up. And on, one day very close to the end of your hike, you're hitting snooze so many times that you're getting up, like the sun's already up. How much of this struggle, obviously a lot of it is physical, it's you versus the environment, but a lot of it's you versus you, isn't it?
Yeah, that whole hitting snooze is me versus me every single time that alarm went off. And it's just like, it doesn't matter 5 more minutes, but 5 more minutes turns into a whole hour. And then when I finally do get up, it's me hating me for all those snoozes I hit. And then it's trying, the next couple hours trying to reconcile the whole decision to do all that and move on and just accept that, what happened there is like, well, that happened. I just got to move on from here. And one thing, I reached out to one other person who'd done an FKT, and he just said, you just got to focus on the day you're in and not worry about yesterday or tomorrow, which was pretty good advice for that whole thing, because each day seemed like its own through hike. It was just so much going on. It felt
during those super low times, what or who did you turn to for inspiration to keep going?
Man, I guess I don't know what I turned to. I guess I just knew that I'm not someone who quit something, so I wasn't going to quit. And if it got really low in like during the day or something, I'd try to pick out the best thing left in my food bag and eat it. And if it was like at night, I would do like just be like, all right, I'm going to lay down and take a 15-minute dirt nap, and I'm going to get up and feel refreshed and ready to go. I think those are my 2 biggest methods. And then just going back to like a mantra of just like, this isn't that big. You chose to be out here, like that kind of thing. Just telling myself that. I don't know if it was always in my head. It was probably out loud sometimes, but it was one of those things. Just needed to self-assure myself.
I think you wrote about it at one point. You called your dad.
Yeah, I did call my dad going to Flagstaff. So yeah, he's been kind of a good support person throughout a lot of this stuff, since he gets as into it as I do. During the calendar year trip, said he was glad I was done just so my dad stopped staying up till midnight looking at where I was at and researching what was upcoming and stuff. So he's always someone to call and chat to. He's a pretty good support system.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you're not gonna get very far without one of those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think those are all the questions that I had about that. Other than congratulations. I mean, geez.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
So here's a question. All right. And you get this a lot. In fact, you've probably heard this so many times that it just bounces right off you. But people are always asking, like even someone who's just done, someone like me who's just done one long distance trail. Within days, people are asking, "Ooh, what's next? What's next?" Constantly asking, "How are you going to top yourself? What's next?" And I don't mean, I don't mean it quite like that, but what can you do next? How do you top this, or do you even try?
I mean, I'd love to try to set some other FKTs. We'll see. It was like the most difficult and rewarding experience that I kind of want to see if I can get back to that level again. Okay. We'll see though.
I got a question
like the
for
one
you.
you just did 9 days ago. You're gonna recover for a little bit. Maybe give yourself another 9 days to recover before you.
Well, I went on a run right before this interview. Feel free to recover.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just saw a post where you were like on some snow-covered 12,000-foot mountain.
Yeah,
I'm sure I looked at your Instagram and there was a lot of snowy hiking going on.
Yeah, no, I recovered for like 5 days and couldn't do nothing anymore. So went up into the Southern Sierra just to bag a quick peak.
Just some quick peak bagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little overnight trip.
Well, overnight in the snow, how many thousand feet?
I think it was 12,200 or something.
Oh yeah, 12,000. Just a hair
Not
over
even-
12,000.
Not even a 14.
All right. So here's
Wow.
here's a question related to that. Do you ever just go car camping?
Yeah, but it's like I can't just sit around camp, I guess. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy car camping or seeing places that, wouldn't go to normally. But yeah, I have to be active and stuff. If we go car camping, I'll probably go for a couple of runs or something like that while we're just hanging out.
That's kind of what I was getting at. I wonder if if you can sit still.
No, not really. That's why recovery, I'm just so bad at it.
So you obviously these hikes a lot of these are alone. You did talk about you said in Colorado you did have some friends go with you, but a lot of these are solo endeavors. So do you ever go out like with friends and have like a social sort of hike? Because I guess car camping is one thing, but social hiking is kind of different. Where you actually like you go at a slow pace and you talk to people.
Wow, do I have friends? Yes.
I guess that's what I'm saying is do you have friends or do you have the type of friends where like nobody can keep up with you, so like you just don't hike with people?
No, I went with Airborne, who did the Pacific Crest Trail Yo-Yo last year, and that's who I went up to Alancha Peak with. So we bagged that peak last week. So that's a friend I went hiking with, but I don't think for a longer trail I could do it with people, but shorter trails and stuff, definitely it's fun to do it with people. It's just, if you go with the wrong people, it can be very frustrating. I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Well, it turns out
who do FKTs on a regular basis. Yeah.
There's actually,
I could frustrate people too, I'm sure.
There's a secret society. There's a club that all of the Rockstar long distance hikers belong to, and it's called the Stories from the Trail Discord server, and you're on it.
Nice.
Welcome to the club.
Do I get like a uniform or a hat?
One of us.
Maybe we could do a sticker or something like that. We might be able to do it. Scrounge
tattoos
together. If you want to tattoo our show name on your body, I mean, be my guest, as long as it's visible in all of your sponsorships. Like you wear a t-shirt for Mountain Hardware, it's got to be visible. I need that tattoo right on your neck.
If you set up these sponsorships, I'll do it.
I Googled you prior to this, and I saw that you did an interview with GQ at the end of last year of 2018. So while that other person was setting an FKT on the Arizona Trail that you were about to crush, you were being interviewed by GQ. I think you have a shot at getting sponsorships. I mean, I'm no expert. I didn't do PR in school, but I feel like you got a shot.
Yeah, GQ one's kind of funny, but yeah, thanks.
Well,
they tattoo our name on your neck or forehead.
Forehead's good too.
So we're getting.
One question that we always. Yes, I think we need to do it.
I was going to let Megan pitch this one because we haven't really heard much from her tonight.
Take it away.
The final question.
The one question. That
I don't know if
everybody.
it's the final, but
the one question that everyone's been wanting to hear.
The question.
Okay, so obviously our show can quickly sometimes. This one we're doing great, and we've really held off. But can you tell us your best poop story?
Best for the audience.
Just honestly, it could be your worst poop story.
Yeah, it's closer to my worst, but I think people will think it's the best.
That's the one we want.
Yes.
I was going into Yellowstone, and I had Giardia on the calendar year Triple Crown, and things were coming out of everywhere pretty frequently. And right at the edge of where there's those platforms around the geysers and stuff going into Old Faithful Village, I took a pretty rough poop. And then the rest of the way into Old Faithful Village, I was just like kind of hobbling with stiff legs and trying to keep everything in as I'm walking through all these people taking photos. and
Oh.
and I actually threw up on the cat or the boardwalk thing, and I'm in some of these pictures not looking too hot, just in the background is really, and I probably didn't smell too great either at this point of multiple different smells. But yeah, I made it to Old Faithful Village and to there's like a medical clinic there. So got my pills for Giardia, walked across the hallway to the ranger office and got my wilderness camping permit, and was able to leave Old Faithful that day with a brand new roll of toilet paper.
Oh man. So there's a bunch of families out there taking photos and you're just in the background, like really uncomfortable.
Probably clenching my teeth, just like trying to move slowly, just as like
Clenching teeth and cheeks, probably.
yeah, both cheeks, yeah, both pairs, yeah, just
Both cheeks, top and bottom.
yeah, it was that was a really tough little experience, because there's thousands of tourists in that area too, so
They just love seeing through hikers.
yeah,
Because we
definitely.
smell so good.
There have been the close calls too, where you see if anything's visible on the shorts, but those are more frequent.
Who hiking has not had a close call? If you've put any number of miles in, you have had to have a close call.
I mean, I think they've surpassed close calls where you just make sure you're going to get to. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's the times where, like, especially when you just meet someone and you're trying to get far enough ahead, and then you just decide you can't make it, so you sprint off into the woods, like try to dig a hole, and then it's just pants down explosion. There's too many times to count where that's a thing. Because I'm like paranoid. I don't know how far behind so you just try to go like multiple trees away so they might not see you. But that's where sprinting comes into through hiking.
I think
I got a question about
is going to be the episode title.
Getting Giardia thing.
Yeah.
So, like, do you filter your water?
Yeah, sometimes. Not
Sometimes.
enough, apparently.
But not all the time.
Yeah, after that hike, I went to just on the better sections, I would just use bleach, because I was a lot better at taking the time to put a drop of bleach and waiting 20 minutes, or Aquamira. But at that time, I was trying to use a Sawyer Squeeze Mini and not using it very often. So
those minis are so slow.
Yeah, you're telling me. I didn't want to.
I am so impatient, and I don't even hike all that fast. That's why I would go with the full-size Sawyer, because I'm just too impatient for the mini.
Yeah, so that was the problem there. But I've gotten marginally better.
Marginally.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm getting there.
Honesty is important. It really is.
Yeah, especially with poop.
Hey, at least you're carrying toilet paper.
Yeah, see, positives. Right. So
I haven't gone that ultralight yet.
Please don't, though. Please don't.
I'm kind of surprised at how many people I've met, like, over the past few years that don't carry teepee with them.
Is that a real thing? I thought that was a joke.
Oh no, that's a very real thing.
That's a for real thing. Yeah, they use
toilet paper is so light, though.
Yeah, but it takes some space, and when you got those little 25-liter packs, man, yeah, they're using like water bottles as bidets and whatnot.
Oh, I have heard of that.
Makes sense. I actually do have a trail bidet. I just haven't used it.
All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left, and there are a couple people asking questions in the chat. Let's do one or two questions from the chat room, and then we'll wrap things up. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see. We've got Sir Questions a lot wants to know, what was your favorite trail meal and your favorite town meal?
Ever? This is broad.
It is
I think the Timberline buffet was pretty awesome. this past year. I would say that's one of the highlights for sure. The breakfast buffet. I could barely move for the rest of it. Yeah, that's probably my favorite meal. I always crave pizza, so anytime I get pizza, it's pretty perfect as well.
That goes back to your trail name.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess so. It must relate.
Yeah.
What was there another part of that question, or did we get it all?
I think that was good. Next question comes from Garmire in the chat, and she must have read the blog post or studied up a bit about your FKT run, because she wants to know, how are your feet after super gluing them?
Yeah, they're okay. I think I've developed like a weird fungus on one of my toes, so that's been a healing thing. So, I mean, my feet don't look perfect right now, but they're getting there. The bottoms of them where I super glued are probably the prettiest part of my feet currently, but my toes have some issues.
That was the first time that you had like real foot problems, wasn't it?
Yeah, anything substantial for sure. I think it's just because I didn't take any time to put anything into trying to keep them good and healing them, and it just snowballed with too many miles. But yeah, it was the first real time. I had a bit of trouble on the Appalachian Trail with the Northeast, just so much snow. They were wet all the time, so they were a little tough, or a little beat up when I got to Pacific Crest Trail, but I was able to revive them pretty easily that time.
Yeah, I remember. So I was reading up a little bit before our talk, and I can't remember where I found this. There was a video. I think you made this video on the Arizona Trail, and it's shot mostly in selfie mode. And I guess it's day to day. You're just kind of describing what's happening. And towards the end, there's like one cut that's like 3 seconds long of you just like yelling from how much pain you're in from your feet. You said something like, my feet are so, like you're just yelling with so much anger. I can't remember where I found that video. Where can I find that? And while we're on that topic,
that'll be on my Instagram. There's a couple videos there. I think, that should be on Instagram. I think that's the only place that is right now.
How do we find you on Instagram for us and for all of our listeners?
It's at the free outside.
And you have to include that "the" in there, right? The free outside.
Yeah, because someone had free outside when I was looking for it, so I had to go with the.
Boo. And that's the name of your website and blog too, right?
Yeah, just freeoutside.com is the name of the website, where I try to post pretty frequently when I'm doing adventures.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll definitely, like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes to that blog post in particular that lays out every, your day by day experience on the Arizona Trail.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a fun one to write because it was like reliving everything one more time.
So I've got a couple more questions. One would be, out of all the trails that you've hiked, what has been your favorite trail?
Probably the Pacific Crest Trail from end to end. It's like almost a perfect trail, how it's so much trail, good views, good diversity, and pretty good culture around it. It's just changed a lot since 2011, but I think that's like my first one and the one I think is the most special to me.
And what advice would you give to a potential thru hiker now that you've got all of this hiking under your belt? If you could give one piece of advice to anybody.
Yeah, I would say maybe two things is like, don't over stress in like the gear department and everything like that. Like, people are able to successfully thru hike with such an array of items and gear and things like that. Just kind of focus on what you're comfortable carrying and things that you've done, and also set up your gear and try out your tent, your stove before you get on trail, because that's pretty funny and embarrassing when people get out there and don't know how to use the things they have. And then the second one is, on every trail, there's like rumors and things that spread before, like the Pacific Crest Trail, rumors about the Sierras and things that spread before you get up there. And there's a lot of like, just like fear inducing rumors and stuff. And I think that you just kind of need to focus on where you're at and not worry 400 miles ahead or what the Sierras are going to do, people who are hiking with you, because, you know, they know as little as you know. I think these rumors just take a hold of the trail and people just put their trust in the wrong things and end up with advice from people who, you know as little as they do. So I'd say just get out there and do it with what you got, and kind of just take each challenge in stride, as opposed to worrying too much and spending energy on things that you're not going to have to worry about for too long.
Sound advice, my friend. Sound advice.
Legendary.
That was going to come at some point.
Gary had to drop the dad joke in the show somewhere.
The bad dad joke.
It wasn't that bad, was it? I don't think it was okay, I'm sorry.
It wasn't that bad. It was corny.
I'll go back to accidentally being on mute again for a while.
Oh.
Well, dude, thank you again so much for hanging out with us tonight. This has been a real treat. I always like to remind people when we wrap up that our Discord server is not just a Wednesday night thing. This goes 24/7. People come and go all throughout the week. There are different channels that you can come in. You don't have to talk. You can just type. There are places to ask questions, and people help each other out here all the time. I would say that you're welcome to come back and hang out with us anytime, but I don't think you sit still long enough for that. So, like Haley's comment, it was nice seeing you while you were here. Maybe we'll meet again in 70 years or so.
Yeah, I might swing back around when Haley's comet comes around too. So yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
That'd be great.
Thank you again so much.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
Thanks for chilling with us, legend. Been a pleasure, brother.
Definitely fun. I enjoyed it. Better than the chaos we started with.
Yeah. That's the fun part.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Cool. Well, again, thanks a million. And to everybody else who's listening on the line tonight, thanks for showing up every Wednesday night. This thing's fun because you guys are here. And we'll keep showing up as long as you do.
There you go. Hey, do you want to pitch the Patreon and where people can chime in?
Yeah, let's. Oh, yeah. Speaking of
great idea.
Speaking of our editing queue being 3 or 4 episodes deep, this is really confusing for the people who listen on the free podcast feed. But for example, the episode that dropped today was actually recorded a month ago. So, one of the ways that people can kind of jump ahead in that editing queue is by supporting the show at Patreon. For as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/stories from the trail. Not only do you get to help us keep making the show and keep making it more often, but patrons get early access to every recording we make within 24 hours. So you don't have to wait an entire month to hear the show. So it's a kind of way to get you can get bonus content, just by signing up. So there's that and a whole bunch more. Plus I think that's how we got Fozzie his microphone, things like that. So it really does help the show. We're not just squandering it on beer and socks.
Toe socks specifically.
Yeah. All right. So thanks again.
And you can also, if you want to support our show, it's a 5-star review on iTunes.
One more time, but with feeling.
I feel like we haven't. If you want to support our show, you can also leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, or just click the little button. You don't even have to type anything. You can just literally just hit the stars. So easy.
Now that was good, but now do one more time, but pretend you're mad at me for making you do it 2 more times.
Gary.
Some of the best audio comes from me fucking with Megan.
People can support the show if they just go to iTunes and just click the stars. I think 5 is the most, but come on, just hit the stars. You don't even have to type anything. Just hit the damn stars.
Perfect.
God, Gary. God. Is that millennial enough for you?
I love it. That's perfect. All right, guys, really
people are
signing
gonna
off
think
for this time.
I'm an awful person.
You're wonderful. We all love you.
Wow. Did you listen to her? She was so ungrateful for all of the listeners.
We're going to get a whole bunch of 1-star reviews now.
It's gonna be all 1 star. They're gonna be like, I'm really disappointed that Voldemort finally has time again to go on the show regularly anymore. Oh boy.
Man. Good times, guys. Good times.
We're officially not recording, right?
We are
Craig left.
officially not recording. Stories from the Trail is a production of thetrek.co. Zach Davis, editor-in-chief. Each episode is recorded in front of a live internet audience. You can be part of that internet audience if you care to join us on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's a link in the show notes that tells you everything you need. Our music is by Lee Rosevere. Your hosts are Green Giant, Voldemort, and Reptar. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. Just look for Stories from the Trail. It's probably us. The show is recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Gary Sizer, in Blanket Fort Studios, which is just me in my basement with a blanket over my head. Thanks for listening. Get too put off by all of the chaos that's...
Holy
Jesus
Nike.
Christ.
Whoa there, buddy. Whoa there.